Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Between Sessions with Berries. Really excited today to have my friend Lisa Mustard here with me. Before we hit record, I was like, gosh, I wish we had time just to catch up because she's such a good friend. I love everything she's doing. But let me introduce you guys to Lisa Mustard. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist, a life coach, CE provider, and the host of a podcast that's shaking up how therapists earn their continuing education. So after feeling unfulfilled in her traditional therapy role, Lisa pivoted, creating audio-based Podcourses and practical CE content that meets therapists where they are. Whether she's coaching high achievers or walking therapists through burnout and reinvention, Lisa's all about aligned action, flexibility, and making learning fit real life. This episode is packed with inspiration for anyone craving more fulfillment and freedom. Lisa, welcome to the podcast. So excited to have you here. Let's just start with take us back to your pivotal moment and what was going on in your life and your career and everything when you realized something had to change and you jumped into this new podcast course CE creation trajectory and all of that. Let's just dive into it.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on your podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you and Berries. So let's go back 7-ish years ago, I guess. 2018, 2017, I was at one of my favorite conferences, actually, the Low Country Mental Health Conference in Charleston, South Carolina, which is coming up at the end of this month, by the way. Cool. Anybody needs some CE credits, you can. They're not paying me to say this, but I love it so much. You can get on there and do it virtually, or you can go in person. And Charleston is one of my favorite places in the state. And so I was at the Low Country Mental Health Conference, and I was sitting there in this beautiful auditorium in downtown Charleston, and I was like, I'm going to be sitting here for the next 2.5 days. Wow, I'm in my favorite city. I hate that I'm sitting here for 2 days in this conference, but I love that I'm in Charleston. And as the time was going on, I realized a couple of things. That I looked around the room, and there were the younger therapists, there were the Gen X therapists, and then there were I called the old guard, the ones that have their pocket protectors and their yellow pads out, and they're taking notes and they're writing everything down. And I'm looking at the ones that are like Gen X and millennials, and we're in our little groups and we're talking with each other, we're reconnecting with each other. And then I look at I guess they would be younger millennials, and maybe, I don't even know what the generation under, but they were just kind of sitting there on their phones, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I thought, wow, that's really says a lot about just the generations and where we're at, and how we kind of connect and socialize with each other. So that was something that I thought was interesting. Yeah. And then the other thing I thought was interesting was, why couldn't I walk around downtown Charleston, explore all the different nooks and crannies, go to the galleries, go to the restaurants? Wouldn't it be cool if I could take these speakers and put them in my earbuds and do all the things? So I could be in my favorite place in South Carolina and I could still be learning. Yeah. And I thought, wow, what an idea. Is anybody doing that? That'd be so cool if you could take this content, make it audio, and I could just go and have my lifestyle, go for a walk, go to the gym. So I started to get really curious about that idea. And I had a friend at the time who is she's a speech therapist, and she was doing something very similar. She was taking audio content for speech therapists and turning it into continuing education. And I remember I reached out to her and I said, is there any way that your boss would want to do this for therapists? Because I think this would be a really neat model for therapists. And she said, sorry, we just focus on speech therapy, but you could do it. You could figure it out. And I thought, okay, I could figure that out. And I put that idea on the back burner. And a couple months later, Christmas time rolled around. I was at the beach and I thought, I need a new challenge in my life. I'm going through the motions. I love my job. I'm good at my job. But as a therapist, you kind of get to a point where you're looking for something new to keep it interesting, to keep you in the game. And I had hit compassion fatigue over the years, up and down all the time. And I knew one of the things that kept me from burning out was taking on a new challenge. And I thought, I'd love to do a podcast. I would just love it. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this idea and I'm going to learn how to get approved for continuing education. And I'm going to create Podcourses. And a Podcourse is a podcast, audio content, plus a self-study course. So here we are in 2025, and I started the podcast in 2019.
That's amazing.
And it's really, I love it. It's so fun, so much fun.
So the podcast is a combination of the Podcourses and then other content. Maybe you could just tell them in general, what is your podcast about? What was the spark to pick that lane of content because there's so many podcasts out there. So how did you like decide what you were going to do your podcast on and these Podcourses?
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to get into the continuing education field. I didn't want to be the one that did the continuing education. So I knew I had to find people who were subject matter experts and bring them on and get them to talk about their expertise. So I have a formula of how I create a pod course and bring on the guests and we talk about it, go back and forth. But I didn't want to be the one giving the information. I wanted to bring on different guests. And then I thought, well, I can't always have a pod course because it takes time to create the pod course. It takes a lot of time. And then I also knew that I just love professional development. I'm a self-improvement junkie, self-proclaimed. And so I thought, well, when I didn't have a pod course out, I would bring on guests who could just talk about whatever it is about being a therapist that would be helpful for other therapists, whether that's the guest talking about burnout, the guest talking about how to learn how to bill insurance, like you've come on and talked about, how to be a traveling therapist, all the different things that might be of interest to therapists. So I usually look for a variety of topics and a variety of guests. And I just love podcasting. I've had podcasts over the years where I'd like, okay, I'm going to try this podcast. And it's just too much. With work and being a mom and being a wife and then creating continuing education, it's just a lot. So I had to pick something and stay focused. And so Podcourses and continuing education, I just love it. I love it. I love learning. So I love bringing on guests that I'm going to learn something from.
I love that so much. So I know people listening are like, yeah, I've thought about this. I've thought about that. What gave you the confidence really to just say, you know what, I'm going to try something totally new. I know how to be a therapist, a mom, all this stuff. Now I'm just going to try something new. Where did you find that courage, that confidence, that energy to go do this? Were you like totally afraid to do it? Were you just ready for something different?
That's a really good question. I think I just was ready to do something different. And I didn't necessarily want to leave the field of therapy because I believe in what we do. I believe in therapy. And I didn't want to leave what I was doing because I really love what I do. I just needed something to mix it up. And I guess, where did I get that confidence? I was just really curious about how to start a podcast. And I thought, I'm just going to learn how to do a podcast. And you can easily go into the 10,000 Facebook groups that all exist and ask the question of how do I start a podcast? And you're going to get 15,000 different responses. And I didn't want that because I know what I was going to get. So I went to the experts and I thought, who do I know that has a course on how to start a podcast? And I did John Lee Dumas's free. It's a free course on how to start a podcast. Totally free. And I guess I could back it up. My undergrad is in communications.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not really afraid to talk or to communicate or to reach out to people. And I just really had that drive in me. And I needed a creative outlet too. Because at the time, I know I can't draw, I can't sing, I can tell stories, I can craft a story. That's where my creativity comes in. So podcasting to me, I just was like, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to figure it out. I just did it. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just did it.
I love it.
Probably like you. You just probably figured it out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I don't know how you were, but the first time I dropped my first traveling therapist podcast, I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God. First of all, like, who wants to hear from me? Second of all, who am I to do a podcast? I had all the mindset stuff, I guess, that people go through. Any therapist listening, we pretty much know how to be therapists, but even starting out as a therapist, as a new therapist, that was scary too. It's like, who am I to be a therapist or tell people how to change their lives or whatever? But yeah, and now I think that podcast is episode 160 or something. Now I don't even care. I think over time it just gets easier too with this stuff. Like you said, just do it. See what happens. The worst thing that's going to happen is nobody's going to listen, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, you probably get some critics along the way, which I've gotten.
Oh, yeah. Which I think is fun. I feel like somebody told me you haven't really made it until you have a hater. And I was like,
okay, well, I made it.
I've had a couple of haters. It's just part of it. And if I took it personally and listened to them, I wouldn't do it anymore because how dare I say this or that?
It's
like, well, then you start a podcast. How about you start your own podcast and say what you want to say?
You see how hard it is, buddy. No.
But if you go back and listen to my first handful of episodes, they're horrible.
They're
horrible. And I wish I could redo them. But then again, I have to know like how far I've come. And that's part of it. You just have to hit record. And if it's something you want to do, you just gotta freaking do it.
And just keep putting it out there. Because you're not for everybody, but a lot of people, it'll help. Especially your content. Your podcast is fantastic. Thanks. You've had so many amazing episodes. It's just crazy. How many episodes have you had now on that podcast?
I'm at like 250-ish or something.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. And we haven't even said the name of your podcast.
Oh, I recently changed it. So if you go on Apple and search for continuing education for mental health therapists, you find it. But you can also search it by The Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard.
The Therapy Show.
Yeah. I just made it more searchable. If you're looking for continuing education on Apple, you just type that in and it should pop up pretty quick, I hope.
Yeah.
I hope it does.
I love that. I hope it does too. It's a great podcast. So we're sharing that you started the podcast, and a lot of times people are like, oh, it sounds so easy for you. What are some challenges you've had along the way with that, or trying to manage the role between being a therapist and then doing these side hustles, entrepreneurial thing? Could you share a little bit about that, some of the challenges and how you've navigated that? I think that might be helpful for people listening. Maybe they're burned out with the one-to-one therapy thing and want to do something like what you're doing.
So I would say get really clear on your why. Why do you want to do this? Get really, really clear, because podcasting, there's that whole thing about you get 7 episodes out and then you pod fade, which I've done with other podcasts that I've started. So I understand it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to get it up and to get it going. So the pod fading thing is a real thing, but I'm really good about time management and my schedule. I have a flexible schedule, but yet I also have a pretty rigid schedule. I don't know how to explain it, because I usually have like one day a week that I can be really flexible. So I would have all of my podcast episodes that I would be recording, I'd batch record on that day. Just
Smart.
to get it done. In the beginning, I had a podcast editor, but I now use Descript.
Oh, yeah.
And Descript is super easy to learn how to use. If I can figure out Descript, I feel like anybody can start a podcast. So I've been using Descript, and that makes it so much easier. And I've also recently, I've cut back on the amount of episodes I do. Summer gets really kind of busy with work, actually, and then with my kids. And so I don't put out as many episodes in the summer. And when I do have an episode out, it's a pod course. It's not, just bringing somebody onto the show. But
that's awesome.
Also, I guess other challenges I had, so this is something that is really interesting. And I had a sponsor. And I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. I had a sponsor, a nice sponsor, and they were paying me really well. And when we went back to renegotiate the contract, they were like, we really like you and you think what you're doing is good, but you're not converting for us. Oh. And that was a really big lesson for me. And I felt horrible because they're paying me so well and I wasn't converting for them. And I said, I completely understand. And I don't want to take money for something that isn't giving you a return on your investment. They were very kind about it. They were a great sponsor. And so I lost my sponsorship deal. It was a blow to my ego, but I thought, I get it. If I'm not giving them an ROI, they shouldn't be paying me. So since then, I don't really want to take on a sponsor because the pressure of giving them that ROI is something that I struggle with. So instead, I just promote my own pod courses and my services, and then I do some affiliate marketing here and there.
So smart.
Yeah, so I think everybody's like, to get a sponsor. And sure, that's really nice, but it just didn't work for them and it didn't work for me. And I learned a lesson on how to create and produce a podcast.
Yeah.
And then you've actually helped me with that a good bit, just conversations we've had. It's a lot of work to convert to those services. It's tough. You have to really focus on it and you have to be very strategic. And I guess I just thought, well, if I just keep putting out my content and I keep talking about them, it'll convert. There's more to it than just that. So.
There is, and not to go totally down the rabbit hole, because I don't know most of you listening are at that place where you're trying to get sponsors for products and stuff. But eventually that's what happens when you build other income streams. That's an ultimate goal, to have somebody sponsoring you or paying you to advertise their content that you resonate with. But it's really hard because a lot of this stuff isn't measurable. Like, you can hear the sponsor's name on the podcast and maybe you go look at their stuff, but it's not reflecting in the return on investment for the company a lot of times. So it's hard to measure your actual impact. If somebody hears an ad and they go Google it somewhere, the company's not going to know. It's super hard to prove that you're sharing the product and that people are actually using their product because of you. So I totally relate to that so much. Yeah.
That was a tough failure, I guess, if you would call it that, or a challenge.
Yeah. And then the pressure, it feels like so much pressure. If you wanted to take a summer break, maybe you can't because you've agreed to have this many episodes a month or whatever with the sponsor. It gets kind of complicated. Yeah.
Absolutely. I just thought, oh, wow, I've got a sponsor. I'm getting money. I'm earning. And I was so excited. And I was like, wait, I am responsible to them for something. And that was a big lesson. Yeah. Big lesson.
I love that you shared that. I really do. Okay. So let's just switch, because I would love to just talk about the pod courses for people listening. And What makes that format so helpful, you think, for busy therapists? And how did you design them to work with real life schedules for therapists? Because I think the only thing we don't have is time, right? We have the capacity to learn, but we don't have time for it.
So that's just it. I mean, how many of you guys out there are so tired of sitting in front of a screen to get your training done? Like, I am so tired of it. But if I can listen and go on a walk, that for me is the best. So you can knock out a pod course in an hour, and you can listen on double speed if you have to, and knock it out in 35 minutes, which I think that's kind of how I listen to things nowadays. I just speed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I just was like, I want it to fit my lifestyle. I don't want to sit in front of a screen anymore. I got other things I'd rather be doing. I got to make dinner. I got to do laundry. I want to go on a walk. I want to be, I got to commute. I have an hour between sessions. Why can't I learn something in the pockets of my day? So that really is why I love Podcourses. And what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
You basically answered it. Like, the format is so helpful. I'm obsessed with audiobooks, right? I go through 5 audiobooks a week, but I'm always doing something else because I feel like, I don't know if it's a problem or what, but I always feel like I have to be doing 2 things at once because there's so much to do. So I love, like you're saying, exercising, just doing other things while I'm listening. I just think it's the best format ever. Like, I haven't read a book in 15 years, so, which is bad to admit, but it's true. Because I just need to do that multitasking. I need to fit it all in. So I think it's just a genius format because I hate having to sit and watch an hour of a CE training. Like, it's awful to me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, that's it. When I was at the Low Country Mental Health Conference, I had to sit there for 8 hours. I was like, oh my gosh, this is torture. Like, I love this conference and the content, but can we just put it in my earbuds and I can just go walk the battery? Why can't we do that? And I will say that my pod courses, so they're 1 hour, 1 contact hour. You're not going to learn EMDR. You're not going to learn ISS. You might get an overview of EMDR. You might get an overview of IFS. But what I like about it is if you've ever thought that maybe you want to learn about IFS or you want to learn more about OCD, but you're not sure you want to commit to the full ERP, you can listen to a pod course by an expert psychologist who is trained. I have 2 actually on there that are trained in ERP, and they introduce you to it. So you can listen and decide, and you can listen for free, y'all. You don't have to purchase the pod course to get the content, because all my pod courses are just released through the feed. So if you're just curious about the information, you can go and listen. If you decide you want the contact hour, then you can purchase it, take the self-study quiz, and then be done and download your certificate of completion. So I have an hour of content, and then you can decide, well, ERP does that sound like something I want to go get trained in. Well, there you go. You just get the intro credit, and you've learned something, and maybe you've broadened your therapy skill set. So I think that's important to know too. You're never going to get Gottman training on a pod course, but you might get an intro to it, so you can decide if that's something that you're interested in.
No, I love that. And therapists listening, you're always looking for experts to come on and do these pod courses and offer them to people out there. If you're an expert trained in something. So
reach out to me. Feel free to send me an email.
It's good marketing, really, as an expert. It's authority. We talk about that sometimes on this podcast and other places too. It's good authority building to say, like, gosh, I've created and offer a CE-based pod course through the Therapy Show with Lisa Mustard.
One of my favorite guests, he is a professor, and I love his stuff. He is able to use that as part of his CV. So when he's reaching out to present at conferences, he can say, hey, I presented on this. And so he has like an example of his work. So I think that's really cool too. It's like a launching pad for some people that they can then kind of bolster to the next level. So I love that I can help other therapists,
I love that too.
Get to where they want to be. Now, not every topic is going to be something that I'm going to be open and interested in. That's true. But if you have an idea, then feel free to send me an email, which is lisa@lisamustard.com.
Okay, so just shifting a little bit, you mentioned Descript, and part of what we do on this podcast is talk about AI tools and ways to make our lives easier. So can we just talk about Descript? Because I love it. I use it for everything. So maybe we could get a little more detailed about how you use it for your podcast. I think it might be helpful for somebody that's like, I don't want to hire a podcast editor, but I'd love to just put a podcast out. Could you share a little bit about Descript and what it does for you? I think that'd be helpful.
Sure. So I'll walk you through my process, and and this might be helpful because a lot of people are like, how do I even start a podcast? So like right now we're using Riverside. I use Zoom. So I record all of my episodes on Zoom, and I have the paid version of Zoom. And so whenever I'm done recording, I download all of the different files to my computer. Then what I do next is I upload the video to Descript. So I go into Descript and I create a new project. I create a new video project. And then from there, I do the basic editing because I'm not an editor. Descript is really easy to figure out, but there's a learning curve to it, but it's not that hard. You can watch their videos and learn how to do it. So once I have it edited down, I'll then take the transcript, cut and paste the transcript into ChatGPT. And then I say, ChatGPT, here's my transcript. I need to put this on Apple. I'm going to release this as an episode. Give me the highlight. Like I just ask it to do a bunch of things. And then I refine it down to the podcast description for that episode. And then I also use it for creating the sales page. I also use it for creating the question, because before I had AI, I would listen to the podcast over and over again, Podcourse, and then get questions. So I would use it for creating the questions, and I have a format that I ask it to create questions, and I don't want to give away my format.
No, don't give it away.
If anybody really wants to know, you guys can
proprietary.
No. Yeah, it's proprietary. So that's nowadays, and then I always make sure the questions, of course, match the content. I'm making sure everything is correct.
Yeah.
So I get my questions from there. Sometimes I have a hard time with the resources and references and formatting them, so I ask it to do me an APA format of the resources.
Oh, smart.
And I mean, it just makes my life a lot easier. It saves me so much time.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything that probably people haven't thought about using AI for. I'm sure there's lots of things that I haven't thought about using it for. But that makes my life a lot easier. And I did create, and you helped me with this, I did create my own GPT for continuing education.
Nice.
It's private right now, and I'm trying to decide what to do with it, because I think a lot of therapists out there, they have the basic questions. If you're so tired of asking in Facebook groups and you're just like, everybody's got their 2 cents, I mean, you can get on ChatGPT and ask it how to do something. So I don't know what I'm going to do yet with that GPT. It's private right now.
And I guess I could share it here too. I'm getting ready to launch a GPT hub of private practice GPTs that I created that are like badass GPTs. But basically what I've done is password protected all of them. So I can teach you how to do that, or anybody that wants to reach out to me. Password protect the GPT. And then basically what you do is you share it. You share it like in a membership model or behind a paywall even. Because what happens with GPTs is once somebody uses it, it opens it up in ChatGPT and they have access forever. But if you password protect it, basically what you can do is password protect it, and then you can duplicate the GPT in 3 months. So it duplicates the GPT, you change the password, you delete the old GPT, and people no longer have access to that GPT. And that's how you keep it under a paywall, basically, and people being able to use it and keep it protected, if that makes sense. So just telling that to everybody out there that has a great GPT that you might want to monetize. That's a way to do it. I'm doing it in this huge hub that I'm releasing like a week. So I'm excited about it.
I feel like every time I talk to you, you're like, oh, I'm doing this. I know. I'm doing that.
I need to stop it.
Well, it's so inspiring, and it just helps me think outside the box.
Yeah.
And I know that therapists out there are really scared of AI. It's going to take over our careers. I don't think that's the case. I do think eventually insurance companies are going to have the first line of defense be some type of AI, FDA approved, some type of AI chatbot.
Yep.
And for those who their symptoms decrease, then they're going to say, okay, now you can go to talk therapy. So I do think that's coming. So I think that if you are worried about it, really hone your skills on a certain niche, because eventually you can become the go-to person. And I'm finding out from other therapists that ChatGPT is now recommending therapists in ChatGPT based on the branding and based on the reviews that they're getting locally through Google, through Yelp, whatever. So I just find that fascinating that ChatGPT might be recommending you as the expert in that area if you are positioning yourself correctly. I just find that like fascinating.
No, I do too. In fact, I have a post coming out on Instagram, I think tomorrow or Thursday, about AEO. So it's Ask Engine Optimization versus SEO. And that's how people are getting themselves to show up on ChatGPT. And it's pretty in depth, and we should probably have an episode of it on here, but it's basically like now on your blog post, if you're starting your blog post out with asking questions, like how we ask Google or how we ask ChatGPT, and having that already on your website, on your blogs and that sort of thing, in the Ask Engine Optimization mode instead of SEO mode, that's how ChatGPT is picking up on people's information more effectively. And it's super detailed, but that's a little just like brief overview of it,
Man.
Yeah, crazy,
I'm telling you what, that is crazy.
I know.
I'm so glad we have Kim who
Oh
is
my
like
gosh.
this advocate for therapists and AI, because I mean, I wouldn't know any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we're all so busy doing our work that I'm grateful that you have such a passion for this topic. It's not going to go away. It's like my husband says, once you figure out how the world works, you have to align yourself and pick your direction. I don't necessarily love the idea of AI, but at the same time, it's like, you can't stop it. We need to learn how to use it if we want to thrive. Not just survive in this field, but thrive in this field. So I think what you're doing is super helpful and
thank
amazing.
you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. These are the conversations that we're having
Yeah.
and texting, and we're chatting with each other. And so I think it's important that we talk about it.
Yeah.
For sure. And I'm using it
Absolutely.
in my continuing education. It helps so much. It helps with the podcast. It helps with saving me time. The only thing I don't really do with it is create social media content because I'm just so burnt out on social media that I don't even get on. I took Instagram off my phone. I took Facebook off my phone. I need to take Twitter off my phone. I mean, it just, I just don't want to even look at it anymore because it's so divisive. And I want to get on there and be uplifted.
Yeah.
And it shows me all the stuff that it wants me to be divided out on. And I'm so sick of it.
Totally agree with you. It's so hard. It's so hard. I have to really limit it. And unfortunately, I need to use it for my business mostly, but it's tough these days being a therapist, especially in the therapist Facebook groups. It's like, oh my gosh, they're toxic in a lot of ways. So it's hard.
Toxic. Toxic. If they don't like your values or if they don't like who you are, you're just being yourself, helping people, going about your business, promoting what you do. If they don't like it, they think they have the power to tell you how you should market and what you should believe.
Exactly.
Now, what kind of therapist does that?
Exactly.
That makes no sense to me.
I could not agree more with you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Anyway,
we could go on and on and on about that. Like off the top of your head, what are like your best-selling pod courses, the ones that people love the most? We didn't talk about that before, but I'm just curious. Like what would you say are the best ones or your favorite ones?
So I have to look at my website because I now have 28, y'all.
Oh my gosh.
And we can't forget that each pod course right now is $5. And I have lots of people telling me I need to up my price.
Yes.
Which I don't want to do that because I feel we pay for enough stuff and I'm happy to keep it at $5 as long as people are liking them.
Yeah.
But if you want to get all of them, it's $49. But if you use the code KYM, K-Y-M, you can get $5 off the pod course bundle and you can get it for, $44. So if you go to my website, lisamuster.com/podcourses, you will see get all pod courses for $49. Click that button, then input the coupon code KIM, K-Y-M, and you'll get $5 off. So I would say my top sellers are anything with therapist burnout. That's a big one. Another one, OCD, is really popular. Another one is I have one on gut health and mental health. That's really big.
Ooh, that's
nutrition. One that's counselor values. When counselor values and client values don't match, what do you do then? That's a great one. I have some play therapy ones on there. Supporting first responders is a big seller.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. My most recent one is about neuroplastic, understanding mind-body pain, a neuroplastic approach for mental health providers. So I don't know. I mean, they all sell really well. I have one coming out soon, another one on self-care with Dr. Jason Branch. It's so fun. He's got such a great sense of humor. And I think he's going to come back and do a couple others on cultural topics. And then I have another one coming out on social media, phone addiction, kids, all that.
Oh, that's good.
So, and the cool thing is if you buy the pod course bundle with your coupon, any pod courses that I add, they just automatically get downloaded to your bundle. So you don't pay anything more. So every state is different when it comes to renewal. Like here in South Carolina, we all have to renew our licenses by August 31st. I'm seeing a lot of an uptick in people buying pod courses right now. So that's kind of neat to see people are looking for affordable, on-the-go continuing education. We do not have to sit in front of a computer, a screen anymore, y'all, to get our CEs. And no, I do have some courses on my site that are video-based.
Okay.
They're going to be under a different tab, and they're a different cost, but there are some other ones on there too.
Nice. Lisa, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, thanks for having me.
This is awesome. And say your website again one more time, just so people...
Sure. So lisamustard.com, and if you want the pod courses, lisamustard.com/podcourses, and you can see everything that's available. And if you want to get $5 off, use coupon code KIM, K-Y-M, and you will get $5 off.
Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here today.